It's so sad to see this man up there who's done so much good, has dedicated his life to saving lives.
Dr. Fauci's testimony before the Senate went terribly, and liberal media stars are not coping well. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, your home for independent and nonpartisan commentary and analysis on politics, media, internet culture, and more. Of course, we talk about all sorts of stuff, and we're going to focus on, we already discussed the hearing itself. I did a video on the 3 key moments for me, but this raucous Senate hearing, the drama off the charts, where Dr. Anthony Fauci, the former head of the NIH and the architect of America's COVID-19 policies that so many people have a lot of complaints and criticisms of. Well, he testified before the Senate, and Senator Rand Paul grilled him, and just over and over again, Dr. Fauci pled the Fifth Amendment and said, I refuse to answer any questions. I plead the Fifth Amendment, which is a constitutional protection against incriminating yourself. You can't be forced to testify and implicate yourself in a crime. Now, the nuances there that will have to be hashed out is whether you can really do that when you've already been fully pardoned for all the crimes, and whether you can do that without obstructing Congress and committing a different crime, even for questions that have nothing to do with a crime. Like when they asked him, what color tie are you wearing? And he said, I plead the Fifth. Anyway, all of that will have to be worked out. But I, like I said in the other video, was heartened and happy to see him asked very tough questions about a lot of the controversies and things that went terribly wrong during the pandemic. And I think scrutiny and accountability is entirely appropriate. But some of our friends in the mainstream media, particularly in this case, left-wing media outlets like MS Now, formerly MSNBC, were not so happy. In fact, they were heartbroken to see the senators not being nice to Dr. Fauci, St. Fauci. And I'm going to read you this hilarious headline and show you a clip from Stephanie Ruhl's show over on MS Now. Breaks my heart. MS Now host Stephanie Ruhl devastated over Fauci hearing. MS Now Stephanie Ruhl was heartbroken watching Wednesday's Senate hearing with Dr. Anthony Fauci, where the former director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease pled the Fifth repeatedly. On Money, Power, Politics, Ruhl closed out a segment by saying it breaks her heart seeing COVID being relitigated in the way it was in the hearing. Fauci was grilled on Wednesday during a Senate hearing over the origins of COVID, entries from his pandemic-era diary, and lockdown measures taken during the pandemic. Senator Rand Paul, a Republican from Kentucky who chaired the hearing, and others ripped into the former health official, accusing him of tarnishing his legacy. Now here is where we get to Stephanie Ruhl's meltdown, which I couldn't find the clip of, but I'll just do a dramatic reading of this transcript. Ruhl cut to commercial by thanking her guests, including MS Now senior medical analyst Dr. Vin Gupta, and saying the whole hearing simply breaks her heart and takes her back to the time of the pandemic. Dr. Gupta, thank you so much. Just seeing your face this morning, Vin, it takes me back. It breaks my heart. I can't believe we're back here. I can't believe we're relitigating this in the way that we are. I'm grateful you're here with us today. I'm thankful you were with us for all of those days during COVID. Thank you so much. Sorry, but this is so bizarre. Why are they so mortified by the idea of the architect of America's COVID-19 response, a guy who has been accused of several crimes? So he was given a blanket pardon by President Biden, but we can still demand answers about some of these things he's alleged to have done. A guy who has been caught in many lies and a whole series of deceptions, from misleading the public about the efficacy of masks as kind of a noble lie early on in the pandemic, to going back and forth about herd immunity claims and what he was saying on TV versus what he was saying behind closed doors, to potentially lying under oath to Congress about gain-of-function research. Now, he's been pardoned for that, of course, so it's not really on the table as a criminal matter. But, then there's the diary entries where he talks about, trying to get his colleagues to nominate him for a $1 million prize while he is supposed to be leading our pandemic response. I mean, there's so much legitimate criticism of this guy. And he was posing for these glossy magazine profiles while simultaneously chairing the coronavirus task force. It's just bizarre to me to see them act like it is somehow illegitimate or insane or crazy to want to grill this dude. Even if you think he did his best, even if you don't believe, like I do, that he was deeply dishonest about so many things, I mean, clearly a lot went wrong. Clearly so many places kept their schools closed long after that became apparent that was a totally counterproductive and disastrous policy. clearly the public communication and messaging and information about the vaccine and the COVID-19 vaccine was not approached correctly and led to a lot of backlash and resentment, because I think a lot of claims were massively overstated, or particularly by the political side, the government appointees, were said in a way that wasn't accurate. And then the expectations and reality were at a mismatch that led them to lose trust in the vaccine. There's so much here, to say nothing of course, everything that was just released in his diaries, which we're still going through, but has some diabolical connections with the media as well, kind of showing you how it's all just one big club and we're not in it. They're like, he's being interviewed by these hosts and these journalists, and then he's also buddies with them and texting them and having personal calls with them, and they're sending him compliments and all this stuff that really casts into doubt the credibility of many of these mainstream media, famous journalists, if they're not exactly holding truth to power when it comes to the leader of the COVID response. But all of this seems legitimate to me. Yet they're genuinely, when you watch the coverage on networks, for whatever reason, they have lionized Dr. Fauci. And I don't understand why. I see the point that he's done good work in the past on different things. I understand he's a lifelong civil servant. I appreciate that. But even if you view him positively, why are they treating him like some sort of saint-like figure, that it's like a sign of dark days to go after him or grill him or want to hold him accountable for anything? When would we ever take that approach to another government official, let alone one in such a position of prominence and power and authority during a national emergency and crisis? They really have fallen into kind of a cult of personality about it all. And then there were a couple moments from this hearing that were clownish, or where Republican senators went off the rails or what have you. But whether it was Josh Hawley, whether it was Rick Scott, whether it was Rand Paul, they asked a lot of very good, substantive, legitimate questions of Dr. Fauci. Yet you have an analyst on Stephanie Ruhl's show on MS Now claiming that this was like similar to McCarthyism and the witch hunts against communists from the 20th century. I'm not kidding. That's the comparison that was made. Watch this clip.
What we're seeing here is a replay of the Joe McCarthy hearings. That didn't end up well for McCarthy. I don't think this will end up well for Rand Paul, but it's still a very sad day.
No, I think he'll be fine.
Do you think it's going to end up unwell for Anthony Fauci?
Yeah, it's so sad to see this man up there who's done so much good, has dedicated his life to him, to saving lives. Look, every day we wake up with, can they really go this low? It's sort of a constant in the Trump administration.
I'm sorry, what? How low can they go? By asking Dr. Fauci to testify about controversies and his handling of the pandemic? That's low? And how is that remotely comparable to ideological witch hunts in show trials and McCarthyism? That's absolute nonsense. They're following proper Senate procedure to try to hold accountable a guy who just oversaw a national emergency. That's not, how is that somehow out of bounds or illegitimate or authoritarian? It's like, this is very much the boy who cried wolf thing, because I think there's a lot of ways in which the Trump administration has gotten very low, right? Targeting their political opponents with frivolous prosecutions like James Comey and trying to prosecute him over seashells or other ridiculous stuff, insane and nasty posts from the president on his Truth Social where he celebrates people's deaths. There's so much criticism where you could say, yes, like the Trump administration is going low or the Republican Party has sunk to lows. But this isn't it. This is congressional oversight. Sure, it's being done in a theatrical way. Sure, I mean, there's obviously some personal animus and vendetta at play here. Senator Rand Paul has made Dr. Fauci his like biggest op of all time, and is clearly, there's like a long-standing feud between these two that is shaping, I think, perhaps the zeal with which Senator Paul goes after Fauci, but that doesn't make the project illegitimate or unfair or somehow dark or dystopian. And it would be much more interesting to me to see these outlets that want to defend Fauci's honor, Saint Fauci, actually address some of the substantive claims, right? Go through, bring in your experts, and like fact check the accusations that people are making against him. Don't just act like it's, my heart's breaking that they're bullying sweet Dr. Fauci like this. No, actually, that's fine. And maybe you should answer whether it's okay and in line with ethics and morality and the law for him to be soliciting cash prizes and while he's chairing the COVID response, whether or not his statements are true or false about the many things that he's accused of lying under oath about before congressional testimony. Why not litigate that? Why not go through the things people are pulling through from his diaries that Rand Paul published, which again is obviously something meant to humiliate and expose him, but you are a government official logging your personal diaries on a government computer. That's insane. Why would you ever do that? Obviously, anything you put on a government device is going to become a federal record. Like, I wouldn't want my innermost musings and self-dialogue to be recorded and released to the public in thousands of pages. I'm sure there would be things that I say or think or reflect to myself that look to an average person to be extremely cringeworthy, or I'd be very embarrassed to have exposed to the public. But like, that's why I would never so obviously expose myself to that kind of a outcome by like blogging my feelings and diary on my work computer. I don't know, man. That's crazy to me that's what happened. But I'll just say that if their goal was to try to redeem Dr. Fauci's honor with this kind of media spin and coverage, it is not working. The fact that he may have every legal right to cite the Fifth Amendment, to not answer any questions. I don't know. That will be litigated and worked out, whether he can really do that despite the pardon and whether he can do that for every single question. However, it makes him look really bad. Really, really bad. If he, to the extent his public image hadn't already been tarnished beyond repair, I think this will be the final nail in his, metaphorical coffin, and rightfully so. And you're not going to white knight for Dr. Fauci and redeem his honor by somehow convincing us that it's like mean or dystopian or illegitimate to grill a public official or a former public official about his overseeing of a national emergency and crisis. Sorry, not sorry. That dog does not hunt. No one's going to believe that outside of your echo chamber, even for a moment. MS Now or MSNBC or whatever you're calling yourself these days. I don't know, guys. That's just my take on some of the media fallout from this explosive hearing. You guys will have to let me know what you think in the comments below. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you aren't yet. Do hit the like button to reward my suffering through all of this. And consider becoming me a channel member to support me and my independent-minded analysis. I call it the far left and the far right. I don't just pander to Team Red or Team Blue. And in order to do that, I do need support from viewers like you. So hit the join button or click the link in the pinned comment to become a channel member now. And with that, guys, we'll talk again real soon.